Welcome to episode 163 of the Shared Security Weekly Show. And joining me this week is the Canadian freedom fighter co-host, Scott Wright.
Hey, folks. Thanks, Tom.
You're welcome.
Great to be here.
Yeah. How's the freedom fighting going in Canada?
Oh, it's endless. There's all these protesters everywhere and people banging on our door. Yeah.
Wait, what country are you in?
Sorry, I forgot. I'm in Canada. Yeah, no, it's cold. It's too cold up here for people to make trouble, right?
Yeah.
We're just good.
What's this I hear in the news? Your prime minister tweeting that they're gonna lock people up for having COVID or something, like in some government facilities. Is that true?
Oh yeah, that's his PR department starts with a Q. I can't remember what it's called, but
yeah, that's fascinating to us Americans. But
yeah, well, whatever it takes.
Hey, gotta stop COVID somehow. Lock them up.
Right. Yeah.
Well, we have three hot topics to talk about in this week's show. And so why don't we dive right in? And you know what? I'm gonna share my screen.
You should share your screen.
Because I want everyone to hear this and see this, because I think it's gonna add context. So our good friend of the show, Rachel Toback, who's been on several times. And by the way, if you're not following Rachel, you absolutely need to follow Rachel on Twitter. She is just a wealth of information around social engineering and those types of attacks. And also check out the shows that we've had Rachel on in the past.
Yeah.
Great listens. But yeah, she had posted this and she's talking about, the problems with deepfakes, and that they're getting way more realistic than, we had ever thought. In fact, and this week all the talk was about this, which is a fake Tom Cruise that's been posted on TikTok by a guy. And so let's just play it.
I'm going to show you some magic. The real thing. I mean, it's all real.
I mean, it's good.
That's really good. Yeah.
It's really good. And of course, people look at this and be like, that's not really Tom Cruise. It's good. I even is some people in the thread even saying, well, you can see these little lines and all these other things. But honestly, the first time I saw this, I was like, wow, that is really good. And for thinking about somebody just seeing this for the first time on a social media app, you're probably going to believe that's Tom Cruise unless you do a little digging.
Yeah. And actually, one of the things I think I read in one of Rachel's posts, it might have been her, it might have been somebody else, but I think it was, it's really bad if it can be put in a context that people generally don't expect a fake, right? If we're InfoSec, people say, hey, look at this, or it's okay, well, yeah, why isn't this Tom Cruise? But if it's put in some situation where people aren't expecting it, then their first instinct is going to be to trust it, at least for a while. But one of the arguments was, it doesn't matter for how long. If it's for any length of time, it's out there and some people are going to believe it. And so it is a real problem that, you can't really correct for it.
Yeah, and there's a little bit more to this story. I did some research. There was a Vice article about these videos, and they're actually the work of a Belgian visual effects artist. His name is Chris Ume. He's part of this Deep Voodoo studio, which is basically, they're considered kind of the best deepfake artists in the world. And they had said that this wasn't like a 3-minute thing that they threw together. This actually took a lot of work and a lot of technology and actually a lot of people to make those videos. So, I think there's a little bit of, yes, the deepfake technology is really good right now, but it still requires a lot of work from a human team to really make these as good as what we see here with the Tom Cruise videos. So it's not quite snap your fingers like Photoshop, right? And it's
Yep.
just there.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's some work to do that.
And I think before we actually move on from this, I'm going to see, are you allowed to, oh, I'm disabled from sharing my screen. I was going to show you another example while we're on the topic of deep fakes, because this is a really good one. If people are interested in this stuff, it's the one of the Queen's alternative Christmas message. Do you remember that one?
Oh, yes.
I'm not going to do the sound, but they go through, you know, the Queen
Yep.
at, you know, in the palace, and it's like putting weird words in her mouth. It's pretty funny. But then they go into how they did it. And there's some pretty cool sort of behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah. And what Scott is showing for those of you on the audio, this a YouTube video called Deepfake Queen 2020 alternative Christmas message. We'll link it in the show notes. It's really good.
Sorry, I didn't put the audio on that for that, but it's definitely one worth watching, because I'm not sure if it's in the main one. It probably isn't, but they have a how they did it video, and it's got behind the scenes, the green screens, and they have real actors doing all this stuff, right? But they just morph those people into something else. So it's cool. Yeah.
So the other thing I thought was interesting when I was reading this Vice article, they had talked about, you know, there's been real videos that have been accused of being deep fakes. So for example, there was this workout video that went viral, you know, showing the military coup in Myanmar starting. That was actually real, but a lot of people called it out and says, no, that's a deep fake. That's not really happening.
Yeah.
And then it was the same thing with, you know, President Trump gave that concession speech. There was another type of, you know, that was actually real. It wasn't deep faked.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. It all comes down to trust, right? I mean, we're eroding the trust in a big way.
Yeah. I just think we're in this fascinating time right now where we really have to question everything that we see, you know, video, audio. You know, pretty soon Scott and I are going to be deep faked. Then what's going to happen?
Yeah. So it's funny. Decades ago, I used to work for a company that did public key infrastructure and trust, right? So the PKI, and everything was digital signatures, encryption, you know, and that's pretty good, strong stuff. It was really kind of overkill for a lot of customers, but I could see them using, you know, digitally signed videos now, right? So that you could verify who stuff came from, for example. And so, I mean, that's probably coming.
Definitely. So definitely something we'll be keeping an eye on. And I'm sure there'll be more deepfake stories trying to manipulate us coming out soon. So, And now a quick word from our sponsors. Given the state of the world that we are currently living in, your digital privacy, cybersecurity, and health is more important than ever. That's why I recommend the use of a Faraday sleeve for your laptop, smartphone, and key fob. And if you want the best Faraday products on the market, you need Silent Pocket. And because you listen to this podcast, you can take 10% off your order right now during checkout at silentpocket.com by using discount code Shared Security.
Is your team starting to show signs of fatigue from traditional security awareness compliance training, or from phishing assessments that target them for those teachable moments? As we've seen in recent news, these kinds of training are having a negative impact on corporate culture, and they're really not all that effective. So there has to be a better way. ClickArmor is the first gamified learning platform that helps build a self-defending team through engaging learning challenges and exercises. Its unique lesson templates, built with proven gamification techniques, let people learn and exercise important defensive concepts in a safe and fun environment. Whether you need to quickly deploy a training solution that gets people to stop clicking on things immediately, or you've got your own boring content that needs to be put into a more interesting user experience, ClickArmor can help. So go to clickarmor.ca/shared security to learn how to build a self-defending team.
So let's move on to our second story this week, which is Microsoft has fixed and issued patches for several Microsoft Exchange 0-day vulnerabilities, very serious vulnerabilities that are being exploited in the wild by our friendly nation state actors, as as always. I found this story fascinating just because this actually affects on-premise Exchange. So these are companies that are still hosting their own email servers. And I know that may seem shocking to some people that, well, wait a minute, why haven't you moved to the cloud like the rest of the world, especially during this pandemic, right? There's been this huge push for digital transformation and moving on-site things to cloud-based services, like Office 365 is one.
Yeah.
So I was kind of fascinated by that, still, on-premise systems are still very prevalent, and we shouldn't let our guard down securing those systems as well.
Yeah, it's really interesting. There's this move to cloud-based stuff. I've seen people saying, anybody who's running a less than Fortune 50 company shouldn't be running their own Exchange servers, right?
Yeah, but these are still, large companies being affected by this.
Yeah,
so it goes to show you, it's, first of all, there is a lot of, it's a business decision and a risk decision if you're moving things up to the cloud, but it's also not easy either, moving a large infrastructure like that. So
yeah, it's challenging. So you never know where the next weird hacker story is coming from, but this one you wouldn't have expected, big vulnerabilities in Exchange.
Yeah, well, on-prem Exchange is definitely one of those things that it's pretty complicated. Back in the day, long ago, I used to be an Exchange administrator for Exchange. It was version 5.5, which is way old.
Yep.
But I remember the headaches and the many hours on the phone with Microsoft support about all kinds of issues and patching and those types of things. So, definitely if you're an organization that's still running on-prem Exchange, definitely get those patches installed soon.
Right. Cool.
So our last story, this was an article that I found just talking about, we invest so much money into information security, cybersecurity from a business perspective, and the breaches just still continue.
Yep.
Nothing has really gotten better. The more money that we throw at it, that's really not the solution because it's not stopping the breaches. And so just to throw out some statistics, and we can dive into the conversation about this, but 20 billion records were stolen just last year. That's a 66% increase from 12 billion in 2019. So that alone just shows you it's rising. And then I believe, they're estimating around $120 billion globally is being spent on IT security, which is just staggering.
Yep. Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think the number I saw for global enterprise IT spending, right? Not security, just all IT is $4 trillion. Right?
Wow.
And do you know what the number is that's quoted for global cybercrime? 6 trillion.
Yeah. Wow.
50% more than all IT spending.
Right.
So yeah, it's a huge problem.
Yeah. So I guess that brings up the question is, throwing money at a problem doesn't necessarily solve it.
Well, that's probably true. Yeah. I do have a couple of thoughts on it. So as a security awareness guru, obviously we've spent billions or trillions of dollars on securing those networks and applications and devices, and not a lot on securing what I call the human endpoints, right? So the people are probably the big problem because, you've seen the stats, over 90% of breaches are in some way involve phishing or social engineering. And that's usually targeting an employee somehow. So, that's kind of where I focus on stuff. That's not the only problem. And I don't want to say that security awareness is the solution to all this, because I think that security technology is essential, right? And we've got to keep it up to date, and we've got to keep evolving it. It's a cat and mouse game. But it's kind of like in the early days of antivirus, you have to have antivirus, but that's not enough, right? You have to have some decent practices and policies.
Yeah, I really think that everybody needs to, take a step back and, go back to a basics approach with security. I think we've all kind of relied more on the latest and greatest technology, blinky light box, new innovation is going to solve a lot of our problems. And I think it's a over reliance on technology. When if we get back to basics, like basic principles of information security, like defense in depth, like where did that go?
Actually, you know what? You might, and if Kevin was here, he might argue this, because I can imagine him saying this. You know what? There's such a thing as too much defense in depth.
He might say that.
What I mean by that, and I think kind of believe this in a way, there are so many layers and interoperability connections and compatibility protocols and stuff like that, that it's impossible. It's getting impossible to secure everything, because every business's network environment and application and data environment is different. And so it's not like an iPhone. You can buy a network, at the Apple store, and it just works. And there are limited things you can do to it. Every network has huge numbers of connections and, compatibility issues, and it's just getting worse. So it's no wonder really that it's getting harder to secure this stuff.
Yeah. So a combination approach is really, the way that we need to solve this. But I think every organization is going to be different too. Solutions are not a one size fit all. One technology is not going to work it may work for one company, but not another. Same thing with a security awareness program. I mean,
absolutely.
You find that those are all different.
They are. And that's, let me put a plug in here. ClickArmor was built to be configurable, because the 10 years that I spent teaching security awareness to businesses, I learned every business has a different terminology, different policies, different workflows, different risk environments. And it all has to be put in a relevant context for the people that you're trying to get to understand how they're supposed to defend this stuff.
That's right. But, outside of that, though, this is great job security for those of us in this industry. I'll just say that, right?
Yep.
Really good. So I hopefully we can see some progress being made on this, but I just don't see it anytime soon. I was talking to Rafalos a few weeks ago on the podcast, and we were just laughing about nothing has changed in 20 years since we've been in this industry.
I hate to call it out, but it's so telling, right? I mean, I keep talking about the 2005 blog post by Marcus Ranum about how in 10 years you won't have security awareness, because people are either going to be weeded out of the job force or they're going to figure it out on their own, that they have to know this stuff. And it didn't happen. So why not?
That's right. All right. Well, that is all we have time for this week. But
great to chat on this stuff. It's nice to have a chance to hear different perspectives, and
it is.
I always listen to you and Kevin and Rafalos too. So,
cool. It's good. Yeah, I'm taking this approach here with probably in the next couple months, just having different guests each week, have different conversations, get different opinions. I think it's important. Great. So,
and then we're going to do a monthly show. What's our upcoming monthly show going to be on?
I think we're going to do it on bug bounties.
So stay tuned.
We're looking to hopefully have a special guest to talk about bug bounties and that whole fun space. So
cool. Awesome.
All right, everyone. Well, thanks again for listening. Check us out at sharedsecurity.net for all of our previous episodes. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, which has actually gotten a lot more popular recently.
That's great. You're doing a great job. Views. Yep. Promoting us on LinkedIn. And
it's been
Love
good.
Those LinkedIn clips. They're great.
Yes. I'm always trying to take the best of
the sound bites. You're getting to be a little bit of a production guy.
Trying to, but all right, everyone. Well, thanks. And we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks a lot.
That's all for this week's show. Be sure to follow the Shared Security Show on Twitter and Instagram for the latest news and show updates. If you like this episode, please hit that like and subscribe button, and please subscribe to us on your favorite podcast listening app. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week for another episode of the Shared Security Show.